Hello everyone, it's Vivi and welcome back. Sly Cooper Thieves In Time, the fourth installment of the franchise, released back on February 5th, 2013, has just recently turned 8 years old, at least in North America. It released in Europe on March 28th, 2013. To those who aren't too familiar with Sly Cooper, the number 8 in terms of years, it's something that we either love to hate, or something that gives us this sense of memorabilia, or a curse, rather. 8 years is the time gap between the last entry by Sucker Punch, Honor Among Thieves on the PlayStation 2, and Thieves in Time on the PlayStation 3 and Vita. There's one thing with absolute certainty. Sly Cooper Thieves in Time never would have happened if it weren't for a passionate and dedicated team such as Sanzaru Games. Back then, back in 2005, Sucker Punch pretty much had wrapped up the series by moving on to different opportunities or different genres, like Infamous, and their latest project, Ghost of Tsushima, which by the way has great reception and sales numbers. One thing I have to add, of course this is coming from a personal perspective, Sucker Punch moved on from Sly Cooper. If that's not something you really like to believe, well, let me just add two things. Back in 2017, Brian Fleming, co-founder of Sucker Punch, had said that Sly Cooper was in good hands. This information was shared over on the Sly Cooper Network, a fan website where you can find a bunch of cool content, interviews, and all that jazz. I'll leave the link in the description below. Fun fact, Sucker Punch even tweeted this photo in 2017. This was during SakuraCon in Seattle. The cosplayer had the chance to run by Brian Fleming and shared this. As for Brian, he merely discussed fondness for one of his company's greatest successes, and that he feels the franchise is in good hands now. Whatever you would have believed back then, while now looking at 2021, Sucker Punch, they were busy with Ghost of Tsushima the whole time. It's very, very likely they were referring to Sanzaru Games. Second point I'd like to make, as much as Sucker Punch still loves Sly Cooper, they're not ready to press rewind. Issue number 329 of Game Informer from September 2020, Nate Fox, creative director, was interviewed and said this: "I would certainly love to make another Sly Cooper game. I missed those characters tremendously. I missed the voice actors who played those characters tremendously. But right now, it's such a pleasure to work on a samurai cinema game, to spend your days thinking about this genre, which I'm a big fan of, and to get paid to try and reproduce something that allows you to play inside that kind of world. It's exciting. I'm not ready to give up on that." What this means, folks, if another team picks up Sly and gets Sony's approval again, Sony owns the IP at the end of the day. Sucker Punch looks like they wouldn't say no to someone else handling Sly Cooper, as much as they love, the series. Heck, that's how Thieves in Time even came to existence. For those who don't know, 2008 was the year in which Sanzaru had wondered what they'd do next. Back during that time, they worked with Sony to bring Secret Agent Clank to the PlayStation 2. It originally released on the PSP. Sanzaru Games, who were such a huge fan of Sly Cooper, realized that Sucker Punch was busy with Infamous. Back then they thought, okay, so why not us make a new Sly Cooper game? They showed a sandbox demo to Sony. Sandbox meaning it's this small area where you can control the character and show off a bit of the level design. They showed that prototype to Sony while giving them a PowerPoint presentation. They loved Sly Cooper so much, they bought a PlayStation 3 dev kit to produce the demo. The demo was eventually shown to Sucker Punch, and they had thought, who made this? They got approval. They developed a collection and started working on Sly 4 afterwards. They got to work with Sucker Punch directly. They had creative freedom. They even sent builds to Sucker Punch for feedback. They had that sort of collaboration together. Cool fact. An interview was shared back in 2013, it's a video actually, when they played Sly 4. Fleming believed it was absolutely spectacular, and that Sanzaru deserved all the credit. Sucker Punch themselves visited the studio at Sanzaru Games. Sanzaru even looked at Sly 2 the most when it came to inspiration, how the hubs work, the levels, you get the idea. Some might believe that statement of theirs is ironic. Wait, you're trying to tell me they took inspiration from the staple of the series, Sly 2 Band of Thieves. Sly 2 is many's personal favorite of the series. The tone and overall feel of that game is what makes Sly Cooper. In other words, Sly 2 is an example of what Sly Cooper is. Now, as for why it sounds ironic when Sanzaru says they took inspiration from Sly 2, well, there's some dislike surrounding Thieves in Time. From general dislike, to hate, to absolute toxic behavior. Should we even be surprised at toxicity being part of any game franchise? Like I said previously, Sly would have never gotten a new game if it weren't for Sanzaru. Let's be real, Sly would have ended in 2005 without Sanzaru Games in the picture. I'm very grateful of the fact that Sanzaru stepped up and contacted Sony. That sort of mentality was from way back in 2008. The industry, of course, it's changing. What I mean, Sanzaru Games used to be a third-party developer. They now got acquired by Oculus, so they belong to the VR department by Facebook. Back then, Sanzaru, and Sony, we were looking at Sony teaming up with a third-party developer. Nowadays, it's likely Sony would rather work with one of their first-party studios. A studio which produced exclusives for the PlayStation console. Not saying Sly wasn't exclusive to Sony, I'm just saying they would rather stick to their in-house studios. A simple hint at this idea, Sanzaru's Matt Kraemer was interviewed by Kinda Funny Games back in December 2019. That would, by the way, be the last chunk of information on anything Sly Cooper related. During that interview, it was said that Egypt was supposed to be a DLC, but it got cut. Egypt was also planned as the first episode originally, fun fact. Why did this DLC never happen? Welp, me thinks Sony just wasn't happy with the numbers. Was it due to lack of marketing? Was it due to the 8-year gap between 3 and 4? The thing is, Sly Thieves in Time doesn't even have the number 4 in the title. Some might say it's better that way because they refuse to believe the game exists. From a business perspective, 4 wasn't used because the game also served as a soft reboot. Sanzaru was aware there wasn't any game since 2005. They wanted to make a game that newcomers could at least comprehend. If anything, the Art of Paul Sullivan, one of the artists who worked on Sly 4, on his page, right at the top, it says reboot. So they had the idea of a reboot. That's why I call it a soft reboot. They don't change the concept and all. They wanted to stick to the concept, but they simply wanted to make a game which can be played on its own, if you understand what I mean. Now the hate for this game stems from the writing. When they said Sly 2 was their inspiration, well, they were talking about the level design. But I do agree that the writing of Sly 4 has some issues, but not enough for me to completely dislike the game. I'd probably place it at number 2 or 3. So yup, we currently sit with a now 8-year-old game in our hands. So wait, it's been 8 years, so if we compare it to the scenario of Sly 3 and, Thieves in Time getting released in 2013, does that mean we're getting a new game soon? We don't know. 8 is just a number. Does Sony hate the series, you might ask? Have they lost faith with Sly Cooper? We don't know the answer to that question. All we know is the movie didn't happen. The TV show is on a complete hiatus. We have no clue what's going on with that one. All we know, right now, Sony is planning 7 TV shows and 3 movies. Is Sly Cooper among those 7 TV shows planned by Sony? We don't know. Do I still have hope for this series? Honestly, a bit. The way I look at it, from 2014 to now, Sony played around with different mediums for this series, movie and TV show. During those 8 years, Sony tried to get a movie on the big screen. They scrapped it. They tried a TV show, and maybe they still are trying due to internal changes in the studio. With the whole current situation in the world, we can't forget, everything slowed down, you gotta remember. All I want to say, guys, thank you. I've been covering Sly ever since I started the channel, and that was back in 2015, summer of 2015. Yeah, I've been covering Sly Cooper for 5.5 years now. Despite the lack of news for this series, I absolutely love diving into the world of Sly Cooper, the lore, and the characters. It's one of the greatest strengths of the series, and I just love exploring it. And it's not over. Heck, at this point, Sly's become the mascot of the channel. And again, thank you for always sticking around. I don't think I would have ever reached this point without your tremendous support over the years. So yeah, with that said, guys, thank you again. And as always, if you have thoughts, questions, or anything of such sort, leave it all in the comments section below. And as always, I've been Vivi, and until next time.